Imagine loving someone for years, silently, patiently, hoping one day you will marry them. But when that person finally returns, they tell you another family is waiting for their answer. What would you do if the love you waited for your whole life might belong to someone else? He spent years saving money to marry the girl he loved, but she left for the city and never promised to come back. Then one day she returned with shocking news: someone else had already asked for her hand in marriage. A man waited years to marry the only girl he ever loved. No promises, no guarantees, just hope. But when she finally came back, she asked him one question that could change both of their lives forever. In a quiet town surrounded by dusty roads and old trees lived a young man named Ayan. He was not rich, not famous, and not someone people noticed easily. But inside his heart lived a love so deep that it shaped every dream he had. Ayan had loved only one person in his life, Sara. They met years ago in school, when life was simple and worries were small. Sara's smile had a way of making ordinary days feel special. She laughed easily, spoke kindly, and carried a warmth that made people feel safe around her. But for Ayan, she was more than just a friend. She was the one he hoped to marry. He never rushed his feelings. Instead, he quietly built his life around that hope. While others chased quick love and short romances, Ayan stayed patient. He studied hard, worked long hours, and saved every bit of money he could. Not because someone asked him to, but because he wanted to become someone worthy of Sara. Years passed. Life slowly pulled them onto different paths. Sara went to another city for her studies, meeting new people and discovering new dreams. Ayan stayed behind, helping his family and working in a small repair shop. Yet every night, before sleeping, he would look at the small photo he kept in his wallet. Her photo. Sometimes doubt would creep into his mind. What if she forgets me? What if someone else becomes the person she loves? But still, his heart refused to give up. Because love, the real kind, is not loud or impatient. It waits. It believes. It hopes. One evening, after many months, Ayan received a message from Sara. His heart started racing as he opened it, unsure of what he might read. Her words were simple. Ayan. I need to talk to you. I'm coming back home tomorrow. Ayan stared at the message for a long moment, his thoughts spinning with excitement and fear. Because tomorrow might change everything. Ayan held the phone in his hands for a long time after reading Sara's message. His heart beat faster than it had in years. So many questions rushed through his mind. Why does she want to talk? Is something wrong? Or, is this the moment I've been waiting for? That night, sleep refused to come. Memories of the past played in his mind like an old film: school days, shared laughter, the small promises they never spoke out loud but both seemed to understand. The next day felt longer than any day before. Ayan tried to focus on his work at the repair shop, but every ticking second pulled his thoughts toward evening. Finally, as the sun began to set, he walked to the old park where they used to meet as students. The same wooden bench was still there under the tall tree. Time had changed many things, but that place still felt familiar. Ayan sat there quietly, his fingers nervously tapping against the bench. Then he saw her. Sara was walking slowly along the path. She looked older, more mature, yet her gentle smile was exactly the same. For a moment, Ayan forgot how to breathe. When she reached him, they both stood silently, unsure how to begin after so many years. Ayan, you haven't changed much, Sara said softly. He smiled nervously. Maybe life hasn't given me the chance to. They both laughed a little, breaking the awkward silence. After sitting down, Sara looked around the park as if revisiting old memories. Do you remember, she said, how we used to talk about the future here? Ayan nodded. Of course he remembered. Those dreams had never left his heart. But Sara's face suddenly turned serious. There's something important I need to tell you, she said quietly. Ayan felt his chest tighten. The tone of her voice carried something heavy, something he couldn't yet understand. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Sara took a slow breath and looked directly into his eyes. Ayan, life in the city changed many things for me, she said softly. Ayan felt his hands grow cold, but he stayed quiet. His heart told him to listen carefully. At first, everything felt exciting, Sara continued. New people, new opportunities, a different world. I tried to focus on my studies and my future, but sometimes, in the middle of a busy day, I would suddenly remember this town, this park, and you. Ayan looked down at the ground for a moment, unsure what to say. Sara noticed the silence and gently smiled. You were always the quiet one, Ayan. Even when we were younger. He finally spoke, his voice calm but slightly nervous. Some things never change. The wind moved softly through the trees around them. For a moment, it felt like the past and the present were standing side by side. Sara slowly reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. It looked old, the corners slightly worn. I kept this with me all these years, she said, handing it to him. Ayan opened it carefully. Inside were small notes, memories, and even a few drawings from their school days. Things they had written together long ago, dreams about the future, places they wanted to visit, and silly promises they once made as teenagers. One page made Ayan stop breathing for a second. Written in Sara's handwriting were the words. One day, maybe. Ayan will marry me. His heart pounded loudly in his chest. Slowly, he looked up at her, confusion and hope mixed in his eyes. Sara's expression, however, was more complicated than he expected. There's something you need to know, she said quietly. Ayan felt a strange fear growing inside him. While I was in the city, someone asked for my hand in marriage. The world around him suddenly felt very still. But Sara wasn't finished speaking. The words hung in the air like a quiet storm. Ayan felt his chest tighten, but he forced himself to stay calm. His fingers slowly closed the small notebook, as if he were trying to protect the memories inside it. Sara watched his face carefully. I didn't answer them, she said quickly. At least, not yet. Ayan looked up, surprised. They are a good family, Sara continued. Kind people. My parents think it would be a safe and comfortable future for me. She paused, her eyes drifting toward the old tree above them. Everyone says it's the right choice. The wind brushed softly through the leaves, making a gentle rustling sound. But something inside me kept stopping, she said quietly. Ayan's heart beat faster again. Stopping you, why? Sara looked at him, her eyes filled with memories. Because every time I tried to imagine that future, someone else was standing there. Ayan didn't need to ask who. Still, doubt crept into his voice. Sara, years have passed. People change. Maybe those old dreams were just childhood promises. Sara slowly shook her head. Do you remember the last thing you told me before I left for the city? She asked. Ayan tried to recall, but his mind felt heavy with emotion. You said, Sara continued softly, I won't promise you the world. But I promise I will spend my life trying to build one where you can be happy. Ayan looked away, embarrassed. I was young. I didn't even know if I could keep that promise. Sara's voice became even softer. And yet, you did. Ayan frowned slightly, confused. What do you mean? Sara hesitated for a moment, as if deciding how much she should reveal. Before coming back here, she said slowly, I spoke to someone in the city, someone who knows you. Ayan's heart skipped a beat. After that conversation, she continued, I realized there are things about you, things you never told me. Ayan felt a strange nervousness rising inside him. Because the truth Sara was about to uncover could change everything between them. Ayan felt a strange nervousness rising inside him. "What things?" he asked quietly. Sara looked at him carefully, as if trying to understand the man sitting in front of her. "In the city, I met your old friend Imran," she said. "He works there now. When he realized I knew you, we started talking." Ayan's eyes widened slightly. Imran knew many things about him, things he never wanted Sara to hear. Sara continued gently, "He told me how you worked 2 jobs for years. How you refused better opportunities in other cities because your parents needed you here." Ayan shifted uncomfortably. "That's nothing special. Many people do the same." "But he also told me something else," Sara said. Ayan stayed silent. "He said every month you put money aside in a small savings account. Not for yourself, but for a future you were still hoping for." Ayan felt his heart drop. He had never planned for anyone to know that. Sara's voice softened even more. "He said you once told him, maybe she will never come back. Maybe she will choose someone better. But if she ever does, I want to be ready to give her a stable life." The park suddenly felt very quiet. Ayan rubbed his hands together nervously. "Imran talks too much." Sara smiled faintly, but there was emotion in her eyes. "Ayan, why didn't you ever tell me any of this?" He looked down at the ground. "Because love shouldn't feel like pressure," he said after a moment. "I didn't want you to feel like you owed me something." Sara stared at him, surprised by his answer. "So you just waited?" she asked softly. Ayan nodded. "Hope is sometimes the only thing a person has." Sara looked away for a moment, clearly moved. But then her expression slowly changed again, becoming thoughtful. "There's still something you don't know," she said. Ayan looked at her, confused. "The family who asked for my hand," she continued slowly, "they are expecting my final answer very soon." Ayan's heart began to pound again. "And before I decide," Sara said quietly, "there's one question I need you to answer honestly." She turned fully toward him, her eyes searching his face. "Ayan, if I choose you, are you truly ready for everything that comes after?" Ayan looked into Sara's eyes and stayed silent for a moment. The question was simple, yet it carried the weight of years. Finally, he took a slow breath. "Sara," he said calmly, "I can't promise a life without problems. I'm not the richest man, and I don't have a perfect future to offer. But I can promise you honesty, respect, and a heart that will never stop choosing you." The evening breeze moved softly through the park. Sara listened to every word, her eyes reflecting both emotion and thought. "I spent years preparing for a moment that might never come," Ayan continued. "Not because I expected you to return, but because loving someone truly means wishing them happiness, even if that happiness doesn't include you." Sara's eyes filled with tears. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she slowly reached for the small notebook he still held and opened the page with the old promise. "Do you remember what we wrote here?" she asked. Ayan nodded quietly. Sara smiled through her tears. "In the city, people offered me comfort, wealth, and an easy future," she said softly. "But none of them offered the one thing that matters most, a sincere heart." She gently closed the notebook and looked at him. "Ayan, I don't want the easiest future. I want the real one." For the first time that evening, hope turned into quiet joy in Ayan's heart. Sometimes love does not win because it is loud or fast. Sometimes it wins because it is patient, honest, and brave enough to wait. Moral lesson: true love is not proven by grand promises or riches. It is proven by patience, sincerity, and the courage to stay loyal even when the future is uncertain.